Our next speaker, or next thought leader, is a trailblazer in engineering, governance, and public policy, and she is a record breaker, or a record setter, if you may, being the first female CEO of the Nigerian Postal Service. Her career spans influential roles at Uber, Binance, and Lagos State government, where she champions strategic reforms and policy solutions across technology, logistics, and public administration. I can't read everything here, quite frankly, but I would say that our perspective on leadership, reform, and nation-shaping systems positions her as a powerful voice for a wonderful event like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome upstage me, Ms. Tola Odeyemi, the Postmaster General of Nigeria. A warm round of applause, please, everyone. Don't stop clapping till she gets here and takes the mic. Thank you very much. Mr. Odeyemi, you have the floor. Thank you.
Once again, good morning, everyone. So like all the previous speakers before me, I would like to stand on existing protocol. But even though I'm standing on the existing protocol, I would like to also appreciate the first person who stood on existing protocol. My pastor, Pastor Sunday Odigbo, I know this is not church, and his lovely wife, as well as Dr. Kemi for putting this together. So today I want to speak on rebranding the public sector. That is, transforming it from something people distrust into a platform that drives economic growth. And I'm going to sort of walk through a couple of examples. Again, you know, my church mind. So I'm going to do it from a couple of lenses. From the lens of scripture, though they're very known examples. From the context of history. And then, of course, our shared lived national reality as Nigerians as well. And so why does this matter? I think we all understand that nations rise and fall on the strength of institutions. Some of the things that the previous speaker, thank you very much, spoke about was that, you know, I think one of the problems that we've had in Nigeria is that we've been people-focused as opposed to institutional focus. So he touched on something about his previous role that he did. Clearly, a lot of things were done, but reversed because the institution wasn't strong enough to hold on to the positives that you had done. So that's that's one of our dangers in Nigeria. But it's not just a Nigerian thing. Globally, government distrust has risen over the last 2 decades. It's not just a Nigerian condition; it's a human condition. And that danger is not just a decline that people, not just perception, but it also affects investment, citizen participation, innovation, and most critical, national unity. I don't know if anybody here has been on the streets of X recently. I even had to sort of shut it down because of the disintegration or the perception of disintegration of national unity in Nigeria. So I will start from one, and I'm using examples that everybody knows about. So the first one, and he's a model for economic reform. So I'll start from economic reform. I'll do examples and then bring it all together. Is Joseph, who is a model for economic reform. So if we look at how, if anybody here knows the story, does everybody here know the story of Joseph? At least a bit, right? So it starts off with, well, not it starts off. There's somebody called Pharaoh who has a dream. And I'll also put it in governance language so that I don't sound like I'm preaching. Now in that dream, you know, he dreamt that there were going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So in today's governance language, that is an economic forecast. A signal of future expansion followed by a major downturn. So he turned to somebody called Joseph, who did something remarkable. So he interpreted the dream not just spiritually, but institutionally. He treated it the way modern governments treat macroeconomic signals. He built what we will call today National Stabilization Framework. Sorry. I'm so sorry. So in Genesis 41, with Joseph's recommendations, they appointed a competent administrator, collected a 20% reserve during the years of plenty, built a nationwide storage and logistics system, and coordinated a structured distribution strategy. And this is not unlike the modern tools that nations use today. We have strategic grain reserves, macroeconomic stabilization policies, counter-cyclical planning, and scenario-based national preparedness frameworks. Joseph was essentially designing a system for risk management and economic resilience long before these concepts were formalized. And what was the outcome? Egypt accumulated enough reserves to become a regional economic hub when crisis struck, to the point where people from surrounding nations came to buy grains, including Joseph's family himself. So Joseph rebranded Egypt from a vulnerable kingdom into a stabilizing force for the entire region. So his leadership demonstrates a truth modern economics confirm. Nations prosper when their institutions, one, anticipate shocks, prepare for cycles, and manage resources with discipline. And today, that is the task before every public institution. That is to build systems that protect citizens and create economic resilience. Secondly, is probably my favorite person in the Bible. Again, so you can see that I'm not preaching. Probably the book I've read the most in the Bible. It's the book of Nehemiah. And what he did was rebuild public trust. So Nehemiah, again, I'll give you if you want to learn more about him. It's a whole book, right? He's another powerful example of leadership that combines spiritual conviction with sophisticated governance. So at that point, Jerusalem was in a state of institutional collapse. Infrastructure destroyed, economic life weakened, and its people vulnerable. Nehemiah stepped into this not just as a builder, but as what we would call today a state capacity reformer. So in the book of Nehemiah 2-6, it describes a full national recovery program. He rebuilds the walls, which reflects what modern governments will call post-conflict reconstruction frameworks, the urgent restoration of critical infrastructure to stabilize its society. And by mobilizing different families and groups to rebuild as participatory governance and community-driven development. He also strengthened security, assigned guards, and created a rotating protection units. So in contemporary terms, this is what you will call urban security governance and crisis response coordination. But perhaps most striking is Nehemiah's commitment to financial integrity. In Nehemiah 5:14-19, he eliminates exploitative practices and even refuses the governor's allowance, embodying what today will be classified as anti-corruption reform and public financial accountability. I kind of read my Bible very differently. In essence, Nehemiah executed a multidimensional reform program, combining infrastructure, delivery, fiscal governance, citizen engagement, and ethical leadership. He rebuilt walls, but yet more importantly, he rebuilt trust, which is the foundation upon which every public institution is built. Now I'll go to history. And I think Pison had sort of touched on it. So in Singapore, for example, in 1965, Singapore was poor, infrastructure weak. It was an infrastructure weak island nation. But by 1990, GDP had risen from $500 at independence to above $22,000. How? Not one drop of oil, no miracles, no minerals. It was just institutional reform, civil service professionalism, and a clear national strategy. I'll talk about the Marshall Plan post-World War II, when Europe was devastated. the US invested $13.3 billion, which is probably about $160 billion today, into rebuilding European institutions and infrastructure through what they call the Marshall Plan, which was, and what was the outcome? Industrial production revived rapidly, leading to one of the fastest economic recoveries in modern history. And down to Nigeria, our own context. And I'll use Nigeria's Western region reform. So we have our own, we've had our own era in Nigeria. We've not been a completely terrible story throughout. Under Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the Western region government implemented Africa's first free primary education program in 1955. And it's important because if you talk to a lot of people in Nigeria today who benefited from that free education, you understand why things like having a forward-thinking leader really does have multi-generational, the impact, which is why what Pastor Sunday is doing with the free school, it might look like just one free school now, but if you think about it in the context of the history that we've had when the first free school started, you understand the impact that is going to come in the next 20, 30 years in the city of Abuja and beyond. What else did he do? Expanded regional infrastructure and created development financial institutions to support agriculture and industry. And you can read about this in his autobiography. And this period demonstrated that visionary, disciplined public sector administration can uplift communities. And it also shows that Nigeria is not incapable of excellence because we've had it before. So what does a rebranding? My topic is rebranding. I've gone through all that. It doesn't mean logos, colors, or slogans. It doesn't mean public sector taglines. I'm not even sure. I don't even know what the new public sector reform slogan is right now in government. But what it really means is the transformation of systems, cultures, and service deliveries. And there are three global shifts that define modern government. One, the first one, moving from gatekeepers to platform builders. Moving from service providers to being a service orchestrator. And shift three, from bureaucracy to performance. And they're not theory. So if I look at my own journey in Nigerian Postal Service, which is technically it's older than Nigeria, it's a 165-year-old institution. And these are the three shifts that sort of guide me when we are making decisions on the reform for the Nigerian Postal Service. So from gatekeeping to platform building, according to our law, we're both regulator and operator. Probably the only one in Africa that wears those both hats. Meaning that we have people think that Nigerian Postal Service has an undue advantage when it comes to logistics and e-commerce. But what we have then done, or what we are building, let me say it, is that we're building rails as opposed to using it for post office. The infrastructure that the Nigerian Postal Service has, there's a post office in every single local government in Nigeria. I think short of the Nigerian Police Service, I don't think any other national institution, service-based national institution, has the reach that the Nigerian Postal Service has. So the reform is moving it from an infrastructure that's based for the Nigerian Postal Service to an infrastructure that for Nigerians, and I'll discuss then. From service provision to orchestration, we are moving the Nigerian Postal Service to a franchise model, meaning that we want to unlock capital in Nigeria, as opposed to saying that government is the one that must be funding and has to be run by public servants. We want to unlock it where private sector can unlock the value in that national framework, in that national assets map that we have. We have about 1,500 post offices across Nigeria. And then from bureaucracy to performance, ensuring that we have measurable KPIs, real-time auditing, and enforcing service standards. So what have I seen in public service? There are challenges and opportunities. Public service is not easy. It stretches you, it stretches your discipline and your patience. There are days that it demands courage and days that demand silence. But it's one of those rare assignments where your decisions can bless millions at a time. And when you can carry that responsibility of the impact that the work that you're doing has on Nigerians. And people, when I get very motivation, they're like, it's not post office. So there's this story that I say, that I'm like, look, the average Nigerian child has never seen running water from a tap before. Yeah, everybody in this room is not the average Nigerian. Exactly. The average Nigerian has never seen 24 hours electricity before. Yeah, because there's no Nigerian that's seen 24, well, consistent. Right. For most people in this country, most people in this country don't have a concept of being Nigerian. There's no link between them and the federal government. There's none. They live, they go to school, go to work, but if you ask them the relationship with governments, probably get curses more. Now, what I think about is there's one post office in every local government. Usually there's two. We have 1,500 and there are 704 local governments in Nigeria. So good math, right? Meaning that that infrastructure that's either dead, roof falling off, whatever, it's probably the one presence of federal government that they've seen. I mean, they've probably seen police, but everybody pretends not to see police because you don't want, right? Now, what we're building is to transition Nigerian Postal Service where it is the touch point of government to a citizen. You want to do your NIN, you want to get your passport, you want to apply for welfare, you want to do anything, any citizen-led service should be able to be assessed at the Nigerian Postal Service because it is the one national infrastructure. So to that child that's waking up that thinks the government doesn't work, doesn't care about them, or doesn't even have a concept of what Nigeria is, my dream is that every single time they pass by a post office, they remember that Nigeria cares for them. That's my dream. And so in everything, so I know there's potential for Nigeria because every day when I sit down, I see the potential of the Nigerian Postal Service, and that potential translates to a better Nigeria. So what is the vision for a new public sector? So be done. So the future of Nigeria's public sector rests on our ability to transform government from a slow administrative machinery into a dynamic engine for national productivity. So I like to pitch as well. Although I'm CEO of Nigerian Postal Service, I also sit under the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. So some of the things that are also being done to lay foundations, expanding ICT infrastructure, building a digital workforce through initiatives like the 3MTT program, modernizing policy frameworks, and creating the regulatory environment for a thriving Nigerian innovation ecosystem. What we are doing is reimagining, like I mentioned, its nationwide footprint as a commercially viable platform for logistics, government services, last mile delivery, and financial inclusion. We're positioned to serve as the physical and digital gateway, connecting both rural and urban communities, enabling SMEs, supporting e-commerce, and improving access to essential government services. And what are these reforms point for a model for a new public service in Nigeria? A digitally enabled, data-driven, transparent, inclusive, commercially oriented, and deeply rooted institution in service to citizens, a public sector that meets people where they are, a public sector that empowers businesses and creates jobs. Personally, my definition of government is government basically is meant to enable citizens. Literally, that's it. Enable citizens. A public sector that strengthens trust, supports national cohesion, and positions Nigeria to compete globally in any sector that we choose to. This is public sector that we must build, is the public sector that we are building, capable, innovative, resilient, and trusted. Because we know that countries with stronger institutions consistently achieve higher economic performance. So all the countries that everybody wants to jackpot to, there's only one factor. There's only one thing there: strong institutions. There's no magic to it. It's just strong institutions. So rebranding public sector is not cosmetic. It's nation building. I don't want to talk too much. So what must we do as Nigerians in this room? And I always say, like, Nigerians, Nigeria, government. Yeah, I know I say government must do this. I'm part of government, but government is bigger than even the people in government. It's almost like I don't say like a spirit, like an entity. It's like a house. People go in and come out, but that house must remain. That's what I always think as government. Restoring integrity to public office. Now, I know everybody's going to say politicians are, but what politicians are what? They're not aliens now, they're Nigerians. So when people complain about politicians, public officials, one of the reasons why it is like a year in, year out, cycle in, cycle out, is because it's not like as if we're importing people from another country. It's us. Yeah, it's us. So when I say restoring integrity to public office, it's restoring integrity into the heart and mind of every Nigerian. If every Nigerian has integrity in their heart, then government, naturally, once you enter government, you're not going to throw it aside. Yeah, it's part of you. This is leveraging technology and innovation, embracing partnership. And no government, and this is the thing, because no government can solve everything alone. Government solves problems. I just read something earlier this week. I think Nigerian Railway Service had fixed a portion of the rail tracks, I think around Kaduna. Within a week, half of the rail guards were gone. So is that the government? It is us. We have to partner. And it is by, even in our, in our little things that we do, stopping at a red light. It's innocuous, but not stopping at a red light is symptoms of a personal rot that then is insidious into every single thing that we do, which then just comes out as a lack of excellence. Do we have long-term thinking? We do. Yeah, we do. There are many frameworks, 10 years MTech, 25-year national plans. A lot of subnationals have long-term strategies. So if you go to any subnational website, you will see their 25-year master plan, 10-year master plan. So we have long-term thinking. But we're Nigerian. So the reasons why it doesn't work is because as individuals, so as an individual, I want each and every one of you to think about why a 25-year plan or a 10-year plan won't work. Even for your own annual, the list that you wrote of the things that you were going to do in the year 2025, all the people that were going to lose weight, all the people that were going to eat better, all the people that were going to pray every day and read their Bible every day. Okay, I'm almost done. Sorry. So think about, if you could not stick to your 2025 plan, why a 10-year MTech will work. So in closing, through all, I mentioned about Joseph, where we see a leader who used foresight for planning. When we look at Nehemiah, we see a leader who rebuilt more than walls. Both leaders remind us that public institutions shape the destiny of nations, and both remind us that transformation does not begin with perfect circumstances. It begins with individual courage, conviction, and a commitment at an individual level to build systems that outlive us. So today, Nigeria stands at a similar moment. But what we can learn through history is that we have to prepare for the future. We have to continually rebuild what is broken, and our generation must do both. Prepare for the future and rebuild what is broken. If we must strengthen our institutions, we will strengthen our economy. If we modernize our systems, we will expand opportunity. If we lead with integrity, we will restore trust. And if we commit at an individual level to excellence across ministries, agencies, states, communities, companies, in our homes, Nigeria will rise with the strength of a renewed public sector. So I pray that God will grant us the wisdom of Joseph, the courage of Nehemiah, and the resolve to build a public service ready for the challenges and possibilities of our time. Thank you very much.